Start. All right, we've got the voice telling us that we are all good to go. We see people trickling in now here too. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here today. I am so excited to have with us Bruce Lam, the owner of Boring Resume. I am incredibly excited to hear about this story too, just because, I have heard so many times new software implementations, new tool rollouts. That's one of the biggest use cases here for Scribe. I'm incredibly excited to see how you've gamified this, how you've made it exciting, made onboarding something that people actually look forward to. So thank you very much for sharing your story. I'd love to get to know you a little bit more, who you are, what you do, and tell the audience a little bit more about that, and we can dive right in.
Thank you so much, Nico. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you are. I appreciate you all joining. I got a chance to be part of Scribe's platform because I was looking for a really robust tool to help my clients with their onboarding. My background is in recruiting and mostly in in-house recruiting as a startup recruiter. And I can tell you many times, and I can have so many stories across how much tooling is important to recruiting to streamline our work, to leverage our work efficiently, as well as adopting new best practices. Now, I can also tell you the nightmare stories of when tooling goes wrong, and it's because it starts off with just really bad onboarding. As I built up my practice as an independent recruiter and started boarding resume, worked with clients, I started identifying a big problem space, which is that the recruiting team, the in-house team, doesn't have the capacity, the bandwidth to implement a tool, recruit, train, onboard. It's everything is being done at the same time. So I offered one of my clients recently last year that if I can help them implement Ashby, a really robust ATS for modern recruiting. It's all in one, but it does have a lot of nuances. I think could you have somebody that could offer them, direct support faster than their own customer support, better insights and best practices too. So if you're someone that's implementing a recruiting tool, a people tool in general, or any sort of tools, I recommend using Scribe to help you build a really um, impressive, but at the same time, great curation of tutorials, decks, as well as in today's talk, a more gamified experience too. But yeah, that's about me. I'm looking forward today. Again, please feel free to add some questions to the chat. I'd love to discuss them with you all.
Perfect. Yeah, we've got some questions. We've got some comments already rolling in. We've got a few folks here joining us. I also asked if you like light mode or dark mode better. I always find that's a fun question to kick everything off with because I personally am a dark mode enjoyer. I think the internet now is too bright, so anything I can do to lower that, what do you do? So we've got some dark mode enjoyers, but we also have Natalia who's a light mode too. So we shall see if there are other supporters here in the chat. But Bruce, very very excited to get started. Please feel free to share your screen and we can go ahead and dive right in.
Of course, great. All right. So I'm going to talk through a lot of my experience, have a couple slides, but I do want to include some demos to show you how I've leveraged Scribe in my practice and be able to, in a way, transform onboarding. This is really helpful because my clients are outside of my area. Like I don't see them in person every day. A lot of our communications through Slack. And oftentimes I feel that when I implement something for them or help them with something, I don't know what's on the other end. I don't get the chance to see them actually use the tool. But with Scribe, there's some really cool insights and tools I want to share with you all to essentially build a more end-to-end onboarding and have accountability built into it as well. So let me start off with sharing some like background context. We'll talk about why onboarding new tools are really broken and fail. Talk about gamification and my approach, and kind of give you some inspiration if you've been searching for ways to make onboarding or basically tool adoption more involved and more collaborative, but at the same time driving a self-service model as opposed to a come in for a training session, and then talk about my experience with Ashby, and then Nico also talk about some self-service wins too. And lastly, I'll describe one of the really cool features I thought is an impressive tool for onboarding, the Scribe Sidekick. So let me know if this story sounds familiar. Your company invested all this money, this time, resourcing, people, and specialists into adopting like an enterprise tool or even like a new tool that they got recommendations or saw really awesome like TikToks about. By the way, that's how I found Scribe. I saw their TikTok and the algorithm just got me. So your company implements this tool and then they put you or your team in charge of rolling this out for the entire company. And you thought, let's do it really simply. Let's get all the configurations done. Let's get all the training done. Let's go through demos, everything, right? All that prep work. And the day arrives for launch day. And then you ask people to sign up for the first wave of training, and you go in and you realize that you actually see a sea of blank faces, having like a staring contest between you and your end users, right? Thinking, great, another tool. How will this actually fix our process? How will this actually make my life better, right? I could be doing this on my own, but you're like, no, I want to guide you through it. And you have like this strong ambition. In reality, a lot of times when tools are implemented and essentially rolled out, I find that in my own experience, we kind of use the same playbook over and over again, right? Which is there's somebody who knows everything and they have to teach it back to everybody else, but we don't know about their background. Some of them actually come in with previous tool experience, maybe they had a good experience or bad. How would you know? Those factors might be sometimes difficult to capture and even irrelevant. But I think in today's time, as teams are getting more distributed, you don't see what your teammates are working on all the time. You don't know how they're interacting. Maybe did they even open the PowerPoint? Did they even request access? You don't know what's going on. So there needs to be more as a control, especially if you're pouring in so much resource into launching a new system. So let's reframe this problem into a more designed question around how might we enable successful self-onboarding through gamification? If you think back to maybe your own, experience going to a game night, a board game night, a trivia night, someone's going to give you a quick instruction and you just go, right? No, there's really not that much preparation, but you learn to adapt, you learn to progress because there's all these cool game mechanics. My hypothesis was with my client was, what if I do the same? What if I take this really boring onboarding, this tool that my users had some experience with? What if I kind of create a little more of like a game environment that they can use on their own time, that they can interact with, and I can kind of see their progress, but still be on the support line and on the sideline cheering for them to get through onboarding and implementation. So I decided to adopt some really cool practice I want to share with you. And for a fact, yes, I love gaming. Hopefully, some of you are as well in the chat. If you do, drop your favorite game that you've been playing recently or, come back to from time to time. But through gaming, we get a chance to do some really cool things with our tools and make our users fall in love, but at the same time, see that it's a very productive resource as opposed to just another training. So I like to think of this. When you're creating a scribe, you're not just creating another SOP, right? You're not just creating another like manual. What you're doing is actually curating essentially the best practices for your users, and you're giving them a chance to use a tool live and overlay interaction. I'd like to do this. SOP used to stand for standard operating procedure or protocol. But with bad practices, SOP really becomes sloppy, outdated practices, and you don't want that. You want a little more, something more, inviting. So hence gamification. Some game mechanics for you all, if you ever have maybe played some board games or been to game night or just love to just hop on to your favorite console. Best games out there have free movement. They let their users, let their players explore without penalizing them. There might be some limits, sure, but they're on a track and they get to, investigate and discover new things around their environment. The best games out there have feedback loop. They let you know the game is done. You finish, you win. If you fail, you die. You can try. You can respawn. Those are good feedback loop to let you know that you're not done yet. You can keep going, right? Also, the freedom to choose your role. Most onboarding tools out there are very sequential, meaning that somebody created like this manual and decided, you have to follow the same path as everybody else. You have to learn it. But in reality, most of our end users have different scope, timing, needs, and responsibility. They have different permission too. So your character choice lets you think about designing your onboarding based on who could be experts already, who could be new, or someone who's kind of like just needs to get a job done quickly. And lastly, my favorite one of all, progression and leveling. Just because an onboarding is done does not mean they're masters of their tool, their craft, or anything. Tools can evolve, software can evolve, right? And so should the person too. They can come back over time to learn new best practices, update on new features, also being compliant with specific protocols, audits, or documentation or data. So having these four helped me kind of think about building a really, you know, one interactive, awesome, but very robust onboarding. And I'll show you how through some demos, but think of these four mechanics, right? And where can you spot them in today's demo? Let's go through a quick instance of Ashby. For those who have not used Ashby before, uh, essentially it is like a CRM for recruiting. We can track all of our applicants, collect resumes, schedule, collaborate in real time, and share notes. Ashby is great. I love it, right? Implementing it and getting it to a team of distributed users who never used Ashby before was, in a way, very daunting. Fortunately, I used my background and I used my experience and picked out a tool that can help my client be successful in onboarding. Yes, I did think about using a simple PowerPoint, grabbing screenshots, and then just like moving every single anchor point meticulously. But that was so boring. That was like just so painful for me to go through. So when I sourced for some tools, I thought about what kind of tool would let me best be able to have a self-service model instead of me teaching everything. So I went with Scribe. And here's how I did that. If y'all can see, this is my instance of my Scribe. I built this quick demo, took out some of my client's information, but essentially it is almost one for one. In Scribe, you get a chance to build a very customized page, right? That lets you essentially create like a table of content. But beyond that, the table of content doesn't just have to be text alone. You can actually create links, tables, be able to integrate with other pages in Scribes. What I love best about Scribe when I was using this was a chance to be creative, right? Because again, I did not want to just have another sloppy, outdated procedure. I wanted something that when I'm going through onboarding, I'm going to get the most out of my time, but come back and feel the game mechanic. As I remember, think about those four type of game mechanics I shared. Where can you also see these in your own tools and with your user, whether it's a team of one, 10, or even 1,000 distributed across different time zones? With Ashby, what I did was I tagged the tool so that way other users can go back and reference this and not get lost. They're not going to just go back to another Google Doc or Drive and just search endlessly or ask people, hey, can you link me to the doc? They're actually going here, again, bookmark it, give them a little quick start here for general user onboarding, and then let them know, hey, you're not going to be expecting a sequential like training. You get to choose, have the freedom to choose your character. Are you an interviewer, a recruiter, a hiring manager? Maybe you're in compliance or more admin, and a quick description of like what is it we're going to do, right? The messaging lets users know that they're entering a different environment and not just going through another training. And of course, include my information because hey, if you're playing video games online like me, you have a lot of questions, concerns, complaints, bugs. You can file tickets, and you want to encourage that with your users to say, reach out for questions because yes, onboarding, we may design it, it may go as best as we can plan, but there's always room for improvement. So contact us, you know. So from here, I let my end users, my clients choose their role. I want to go to this recruiter one, for example, right? Clicking on this link right here, it takes me to my recruiter page. Still same environment, but now it's a different um, context. And yes, I love to throw in some little like game talk into it as well to give them like that sense and that vibe of like they're not reading a training manual. They're reading something that's designed for them. Task for me and specific steps and tutorials are broken down into quests instead and give them like, a clear objective, right? From from the point they start their onboarding, the users can complete level 1 through 3 by the end of the week, check in with their specialist for advice, question, and yes, rewards too. And of course, send out a daily onboarding progress report in your inbox. And I'll show you how to grab those insights. But here with their page, you can customize and create tables using the slash command and be able to bucket certain tasks into these and create like this leveling. Now, going back to earlier, even though I did tell you all and I tell my clients, don't expect to learn everything. But what if the people who do want to learn everything? You can account for them too. I create side quests, another way to just reframing tutorials and steps and tasks. And I let them know just pick 2 or more skills to become a high performing recruiter. And I'd like to break it down a little more creative aspect and hyper personalize it. You're going to learn some navigation skills, some administration skills, or even compliance skills, right? And yes, who doesn't love a good animation? With Scribe, you can embed these animation, link your media, your Looms, your YouTube, your own recording, and even search for Jiffies as well. When you do that, it gives the user, I feel like, a better experience when it comes to knowing that they get a chance to do something that's not just work related. They get to have a little bit more of like that manufactured fun, in my opinion. But in the end, it does not feel like they're going through another boring onboarding. So let me pause here for now before I go to the next step. I know Nico would like to jump in, maybe share a discussion point.
Perfect. Yeah, that was fantastic. I love how you've customized it based on the role too. I think that's incredibly insightful. One of the, I think it mirrors a lot of trends we're seeing too, just in general of social media when you're seeing the algorithm, some person's algorithm is completely different from another person's. And so if you have that more individualized experience, in my opinion, that would just encourage them to take an even further step and be like, no, this is great. Like I've got my own little list of things that I need to do. So I love that. I love too that you're actively using all of the features of Pages too, because the tables in Pages is actually a newer release. So I'm so happy that you are like making great use of this. This is fantastic. So I love it. This is amazing. So thank you very much. We do have one question from the audience here from Yacy, I believe. They said, this is so helpful. I need to do the same thing for work, and this is helping me envision what to do. Is there a way for users to prove that they completed something or to submit their
Ah,
completions to level up officially?
yes, great question. I do have a really good proof of concept and example of that at the end regarding leveraging the Scribe insights that most onboarding lacks, in my opinion. And I'll give an example. So in my first ever onboarding like experience way back when I was like a junior like HR assistant, I had to onboard a semiconductor company team in the US to learn a tool called Taleo. It's really like, legacy recruiting tool. If anyone remembers that, I'm sorry if I triggered any like bad feelings. I know different me to say the name, but Taleo was a very complex enterprise tool. I had to give this presentation to an audience of engineers, and I would say 95% of them did not use the tool. It was just hiring managers. It was daunting, right? But I didn't know if the hiring manager actually used it or not because everything was so disconnected. Fast forward later on, I had to do a demo and a training for another recruiting tool. And that one was cool. We did a whole like live session. We did like interaction, like point click everything. But it was so unscalable because I had to do that like day in, day out. I get tired by like the third demo. But I still didn't know if like my users were actually using it until I see their scorecard come in. And even then, there's still like there's an improvement. But with Scribe, one of the cool features is using their insights, which tells you on your team who's actually completing the task, how many views, how long they've done, and you can take that data and be able to use it. And what I'll show you is like a progress report, like an email, and then open up to your team's communication tools like a Slack or a Teams or any other internal chat where you can start creating like an onboarding channel for new hires or even existing hires and come back and say, hey, I have something I want to request. I think this Scribe is actually outdated. Can we update it for new hires, right? It gives that sense of more collaborative and people giving stake. But the two main things is leveraging Scribe insights and putting into an actual play of taking that message and that data to one, reward, encourage, and build a community around your users.
I love that. That's fantastic. I'm happy that that was like a little preview of what's to come too. I'm very excited to get to part three here too. But I can definitely take over here too for the meantime. So another one of the amazing parts about Scribe is that all of the scribes are designed to work where you actually do work. And so what I mean by that is you can literally embed a scribe guide for anything that you're teaching somebody how to do anywhere where an iframe is accepted. And there are thousands and thousands of different places where you can do this. If you've got an intranet, if you have a SharePoint, for example, through with your company, and that's where you use to get all of your company information down. You can embed the scribes directly into SharePoint, directly into Notion, directly into your internal wikis. So nobody ever has to actually go searching for those. You can put them directly where people are already familiar with, which, in my opinion, is one of the biggest benefits of actually using Scribe. So I'd love to demonstrate that for you all here now. So what I have here is I've got a scribe here. This is one of the ones. So we use a contractor actually that we've onboarded that helps us manage all of our incoming comments that we receive on all of our paid ads, all of our organic social media content. And so what I wanted to do is when I was actually onboarding them, I created an entire library of scribes of like, here's how you do every single thing and all of the tools that we use to make it as easy as possible for them. Say, for example, you are using Notion. So I am actually using Notion. We use Notion here at Scribe. And one of the ways that you can do that is if you put together a little Notion guide or an onboarding guide for folks, what you can do is you can actually put that directly into a Notion page. So that way people can actually access that content right away. So this again, too, one of the easy things that you can do here, all you have to do is go through and you have to, if you go to embed, again, Notion works a little differently where all you need is the actual link itself. So when you do that and you paste in the link here, it'll go through, it'll load a little bit, and then right there, you already have the actual scribe directly where people are already working. The beauty of using embeds or actually live links, so even if you just pasted a link into wherever you're working, is that anytime you update the original guide, everywhere where that guide lives is automatically updated. So say for example, you needed to come through here and you were like, "Oh my goodness, now step 2 and 3 are completely out of date. They went and changed the UI of the tool. Now we have to go through and redo it." Previously, that would of course require you to go through and take new screenshots and maybe reorganize the guide and do everything manually. With Scribe, you can easily go through, update that, start insert new steps as easy as it was to capture the original ones. As soon as you hit save, that update is pushed out live to wherever it actually lives. So one of the biggest pieces of advice that we always have is please use a live link or please embed this somewhere so that way you don't ever have to worry about, whoa, is this person using version 2 or version 3 or what, maybe they're doing some outdated stuff or we don't even use that tool anymore. Why are they going through here too? So a beautiful way to make sure that everybody is up on the same page there too. In addition to actually embedding them in external tools, you can, of course, embed them directly inside of a page, which is what Bruce was sharing too. So what I did is I actually created a page here as a little Sprout Social onboarding guide for our contractor. And so what you can actually use AI to create the entire page too. You can get very creative with the prompt of it, saying, this is the tool that we're looking to do. We are onboarding, a new contractor who has never actually used this tool or any social media management tools before. Please give a generic overview of what the tool looks like, and then the AI will go through and actually create the page. The beauty of it too is you can select the specific scribes to put in there, so it'll build it around those scribes, which is really cool. And in the page as well. So you saw in Bruce's example, there was some links out to a lot of external information. If you embed a scribe directly inside of a page, it just comes directly here, and it's a clickable format that opens up in a little side panel viewer. So that way you can track to see like, oh, they don't even have to leave the page. They can just do this. One of the cool things too is that pages can actually be embedded. So instead of just embedding an actual scribe, you can actually embed a page directly in many different places. And again, a page is great if you're combining a lot of different content. If you've got multiple scribes, maybe some external resources, maybe a Vimeo video that you've been using in your training and onboarding for the last 10 years, that's now just a staple of your onboarding. You can upload and embed those directly inside of the page itself and then put that page wherever you need it to go. So I've got two examples that I also wanted to show you just about how that looks in real life. The first one is from Motlow State College. One of our Scribe champions here, he shared this with me that he's actually using the Scribe page to help families who are going through and applying for financial aid through their university. And so this is a fantastic way. Again, even if you're dealing with non-technical audiences, a Scribe is designed so that you can anybody can check it out, anybody can follow the steps, and anybody can be an expert. Anybody can do it as well as the person who actually made the Scribe. So what they've done here is on their website, they've directly embedded a Scribe page. And as you can see here too, this is something Bruce also mentioned. There's great table of contents here if you're looking to make sure everybody is on the same page. Again, too, when you actually open up the Scribe, it just opens up in the side panel. So these people never have to leave the actual Scribe instance at all or the page itself. They have everything they absolutely need here directly inside of this page that they have then embedded inside of another website. So again, you can embed anything, any scribe, any page directly wherever in any iframe embeds are actually accepted. And that is the options there are pretty limitless. Like again, to Notion, internal wiki, SharePoint, Confluence, there's so many different areas where your team is probably already working that you can put the scribes in the pages themselves. So again, as they're doing their work, they can just go through, quickly reference it and get back to what they were doing there. Another fun example here too was I found this over a year ago too. So this is it's just awesome to see sort of how long Scribe has been around and how many people have been turning to it. Nikki, she owns and manages over 30 WordPress websites, and a lot of their clients want to keep their sites updated on their own. What she does is she actually goes through and she embeds Scribe pages directly into the WordPress backend. So she'll get the actual guides. I'll just skip through the video real quick to show you what that looks like. Here she's copying the embed code for the actual page itself. And then in the back end of WordPress, she's going through adding a new container to be able to accept an iframe embed. This just goes to show how customized you can get with these. And when she does that, what happens is she goes through, when she publishes that, what happens is the actual clients themselves can come directly into their backend, click on that little section of training guides, and see the page that she's made for them directly within WordPress. So they don't ever have to leave WordPress. They don't ever have to do anything. If she updates any of these guides, any of the original Scribe guides, anything on the page itself, that is automatically pushed live to wherever that lives. Again, this is just a wonderful feature that I think a lot of people sometimes will overlook. But again, it stays live, it stays up to date as soon as you push those updates live, and you can put these virtually anywhere. Again, anywhere where an iframe is accepted, you can put a Scribe. So that was my soapbox here too. Thank you very much, Bruce, for letting me cut in here and demonstrate that. I'd love to kick it back over to you and hear that the tail end of the presentation.
Of course. Thank you, Nico. Thank you for calling out some of like the overlaps in my example, and of course with scribes too.
Of course.
All right. Let's go back to next one. So about Scribe Sidekick, this will actually go into one of the questions around how do we track accountability? Because I think that's really important. As onboarding specialists and as folks who help companies get their teams up to date with best practices, modern tools, the question is around, yeah, like how do we actually validate that our end users and our teammates are using the tool to the best and that it's done correctly? Of course, you can let things be laissez-faire and let your employees, your teammates, your users kind of run free and have like that open world environment. But at the end of the day, what gets done and how do we track that? I think it goes back to the culture of one building strong onboarding culture, right? Which is like you want everyone to start on the right foot, but be set up for success. You don't want people just to fall through the cracks and think, you know what, it's on them. No, it's on the onboarding team to make sure that everyone has one great experience, but also have like support and scaffolding. So a lot of times when it comes to onboarding, you can teach someone a specific technique, a tool, or any feature. And they might come back and tell you, can you please send that to me again? Can you just like remind me? How do I do this? Oh, I'm stuck. And those friction points are very natural, right? Because we're trying to teach somebody else to do things that we're good at. They're not the expert, but we are. So as onboarding specialists, we've got to find ways to have like again go towards like self-service model. And the reason why I picked Scribe is because it has a self-service feature called Guide Me. Let me share a quick demo on that. So remember, as I showed earlier, I can create these roles that can carve out pages, I can link pages back and forth. So it doesn't feel like you're sitting in like a PowerPoint slide, right? And you have to like gatekeep that and restrict so many permission and worry about content. By having scribe pages and guides, they are really interoperable, meaning they can actually work really nicely with each other. Let's go to one example. This one is I'm teaching a recruiter how to add a candidate. So it takes the candidate, the user into the scribe itself, right? And they can go through step by step. They can see the embedded version where everything's kind of like a slide version. But here, what's great is that as I'm designing and editing it too, I can still have a lot of fun as an onboarding specialist. When I create something, I can immediately go to a step, add a tip, add alerts, capture something live, right? And even, yes, add some fun little animations. And that's important for me as someone that one is so people centric, is to make things that one are relatable and at the same time gives them a chance to just like take a little break from work just for a minute, right? So make a lot of cool references to movies, right? And use those kind of like get people into the mood. So the first step to them is not like I have to get something done. It's more like a let's get in the game mode. Like let's get in the game, put a game face on here. But as they go through it, they might see some links going back to the idea of like, oh my God, another training. It doesn't have to be that way. With Scribes Guide Me, they can download the extension on their Chrome browser or Apple browser and then be able to use this in two different ways: the self service, the free world exploration, or if they need a little more hand holding, that's okay too. They can click on Guide Me and they can open up directly into the tool that they're using. In this case, here's my instance of um, of Ashby. Let me just sign out real quick, go to the correct one. And what's great is as I'm using this too, right? I can start going through and seeing these little nice, um, what do you call it? These little
Click
circles.
target. Yeah, click target
Target,
is the
thank you.
official name. I like little circles too, though. That's
Yeah,
great.
the little circles, right? The little circles and click targets, right? It's like cool. Now it's like a first person clickable game, right? As I'm going through this, my users now have me at their side without me being at their side, hovering over their shoulders and pointing to their screen. They have these click targets that can allow them to go through and see side by side with the extension what they're working on, if they're on the right track or not, skip steps if they want to, right? And see the little messages and pop-ups along the way. As they're going through this, right, everything they're doing is actually working towards an actual feature, an actual task that they should get done. And you can design your scribe and your workflow however you want. Whether it's like, I need you to complete this time card. Well, they can read the document, they can do that, but will they actually complete the time card? Why not combine both and actually have them do a time card, learn it, and get guided at the same time? You get three things done at once, right? And as I go through it, I also want to make sure they get a little like cheerleading message from me, right? Again, it's that feedback loop, like, hey, you're on the right track, like keep going, right? And what's cool is Scribe lets me do that. It has these little nice steps that can just add in a quick little fun message, right? Because we don't want to leave the human out of like the experience. We're still there. We're just virtually there. So dropping in little memes, little gifs for them, animations, whatnot, right? To make sure again they get like the feedback. We're on the right track here, and you're not. You're almost there. Now, some scribes can take long because some tools are very complex. There's lots of areas to click on, and that's fine, right? As they go through this, again, I'm dropping in this little breaks, like mental break. Hey, you're almost there, right? And as they scroll through, more steps get highlighted to show their progress completion. And by the end of it, by the time they're done, right? They actually complete something. They get some real work done on their first week, whether it's a time card, submitting a request. Um, so if you're in engineering, they complete a ticket or they open a ticket. But what Scribe Me what Guide Me allows your users to have you at their side whenever they're working on it, and gives you that relief that you don't have to answer so many requests all at once and have a queue. So that's why I really love about the fact that um, your work and your end users' goals can match up nicely. Um, with that said, let's go to what to do next. Like, what's after? It's like going back to completion. Like, how do we see this end to end and make sure everybody is able to, like, actually um, be successful? Here's a snapshot that I pulled from one of my scribes from my client, right? Whenever you see someone actually using it, you can track their usage. Insights allows you to peek at who's actually using, who's actually completing the task, how long did it take them, right? And the completion rate. This is all really good data. And this is where I felt like a lot of onboarding tools were missing, whether you're a PowerPoint or a Google Slides person, whether you're like, I'm teaching everyone live and, they got to turn in a document. How would you know if they're doing it like at, midnight your time when it's like 9 a.m. their time? So I take this data, right? And because for my client, had a very small cohort of users. I look at their wins. I'm like, wow, this person completed in like 646 seconds, right? So translate that into an email. Hey, you're kicking Ashby so far in onboarding. Here's a recap. Level one of your task. What have you gone done? Level two, not started yet. But I use that data to let them know how great they're doing so far, right? Um, and then let them know, hey, we'll check back tomorrow with an update and final report by end of your onboarding. As you build this culture, you build these plays into your workflow. You now get a sense of your end users, knowing that what they're doing definitely does matter. It gives that insight. It gives a chance to also see if your new hires or your end users are on the right track, especially if you're trying to evaluate a new hire within like the first 30, 60, 90 days. Are they onboarding right? Are they doing the things that we're designing for them to do? These are great ways to call and give them those metrics and wins. Now, one thing I like to do is sneak in ways to build a community. At the end of my email, I let my client know, hey, earn a bonus by submitting a scribe request. And a bonus here could be whatever you and your team decide would be the right reward. Maybe it's a shout out. Maybe it's like a way to prioritize them in like specific things, like a raffle, a winning, or if you give out like swag as well too. You can start using that chance to give your new hires or your employees more swag. Or you have a contest, right? To say, hey, we're going to add you to the leaderboard if you complete this feature in like this time. But I link them to the onboarding like community, a Slack channel, and tell them while you're there, look at past requests, let us know what you're working on, or suggest and even add to the list of requests so we can create scribes. You build this work into your workflow, it gets very natural. Now you have essentially like an army of scribblers or scribers out there to say, I want this feature next. Hey, this is outdated. Now you have people who actually are being accountable to themselves too. And new hires can go back and look at past tickets. And then you build on those tickets to get new ideas, to get new sourcing for requests, for tutorials or updating. Now you're not alone as your own onboarding specialist. You've essentially cultivated a team of onboarding supporters. So definitely encourage you all, right, as you look through Scribe, check out the insights that tells you the completion rate, the time spent in here, who's actively using it, any guests, any shares, and then put that into a messaging to your users. Let them know that we see you, we support what you're doing, and we know you're on the right track. So that's leveraging Scribe from end to end with creativity and a little flair at the same time too. So, with that said, I'd love to open up for questions, but my pitch to you all is if you are ready to gamify your onboarding, your SOP with me, hit me up, right? I'd love to get a chance to work with you and your team to provide a better experience and not just another boring tool rollout. With that said, I'll hand it over to Nico.
Awesome. That was fantastic, Bruce. Thank you very, very much. This was amazing. We do have some questions that I can definitely answer, but I'd love to get your take on that as well too. So, Yolanda mentioned that they're a beginner. They sent an instructional video to school staff, and he was not able to gain access. Is it better to use work email or personal email to gain access to the video? Great question, Yolanda. If you are talking specifically about a Scribe video, the only thing that you need to make sure is that your viewing permissions are updated correctly. So the thing that you would have to likely do here is there's a few different options that you have. I have it set anytime I'm sharing a guide publicly to anybody with the link can view. And essentially, what this does is it turns this link into what I like to refer to as like an unlisted YouTube video, meaning it would be next to near impossible for somebody to guess what this URL is directly unless they actually had access to the URL. So, of course, sometimes folks are bringing up, oh, I don't want to do that because of safety concerns. I can assure it's definitely not like out in the open. People can't search for it unless you specifically identify it as such. If you set it to anybody with the link can view, though, this would make sure that anybody, even without a Scribe account, can see this content. So, for example, if I take this here and say, for example, this was a new incognito window, I would be able to see all of this content here. Now, what you can also do is this is also a great opportunity to look at getting your team available on Scribe too. So, if you're a part of a more regulated industry, if you are definitely wanting to make sure that everything is as secure as it can be, what you can do is you can always change the viewing permissions to just people on your actual team can access it. So they would have to be a part of your actual team in order to see any of this documentation. Do keep in mind that if you are embedding this externally too, and somebody, a guest, for example, in your intranet was to stumble across this, unless they are logged in with their Scribe account, they wouldn't be able to see it. So again, adds that extra layer of security there. But in order to share it with people who don't have a Scribe account, you can simply just set the viewing permissions down here to anybody with the link can view. And then that again, you can share this link out with any single person and they'd be able to open it and check it out. The next question, and Bruce, I'd love to get your take on this too, since we did just talk about Guide Me. So Yasi asked, do the Guide Me circles work for Salesforce as well? And is this a paid feature? This is amazing. They're a sole admin for 150 plus Salesforce users in a community college district, and they have limited funding. Their colleagues are begging for better and more training from them. So I'd love to know sort of how you approach that, Bruce, with some of your clients, and then I can add some additional details too at the end. But
Yeah,
I'd love to pass it to you.
absolutely. Thank you for the question. I think overall it's great that there's a demand for better and better training, which means that people want to level up in skill, there's grow their skills too. And I think it's a important responsibility that you have to get it right for 150 more Salesforce users, and if that goes well, another 150. Going back to the question of like around is the guide me circles work? Yes. So I use Ashby. I had my own admin account for Ashby, and so I was able to capture the pages and the steps. And initially, when I first started, I wrote down all the things that I think are important. And I got the inspiration initially from, truth be told, Ashby's own documentation. I read through the documentation, but I thought, why would I make my end users and my clients read the documentation? I'm here. My job is to make that process simple for them. So I curated specific features and training, and I had to go through and ask myself, if I'm a user for this permission, do I need to know things like compliance? Maybe, maybe not. And to whom would that benefit, right? So start with understanding your own tools documentation. Ask yourself the question like, if I were to create these different characters and roles, what do they need to know in order to do? And how can I put myself in their position and record a scribe, capture it live in its entirety, right? And then put those circle trackers, put those little circles in there to be like, this is how I would tell myself to do it if I was them. And then when you have that entire list, go back and start to tailor it, right? Start to take out step, condense step, remove steps, and you can move and manipulate where the circle trackers are, so that we can have a more better curation. But yes, Circle Guide works on any tools that you can capture. The only thing I would say to be aware of is one, data sensitivity, especially if you're working with a lot of restricted data, personal data, compliance in your state or country, or if you're in Europe, GDPR, and if this Scribe will be shared with anyone or within your organization to be aware of data. Number two is be aware that if you're requiring your users to go through a training, but they are actually interacting with real live operation or real live, like folders or documentation, I would recommend creating like a environment, like a little dummy like folder or dummy test, or in my case, for hiring like a practice job, right? That they can go through and interact with.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you very much for the advice there too. As a note too for the other users, it is not a paid feature. So in order to actually create a guide and use GuideMe, the only requirement is that you must have the actual Scribe extension installed. For example, if I shared with you the guide that I was sharing earlier about how to use Sprout Social, as long as you have the Sprout Social, the Scribe actual. What am I trying to say? The Scribe extension. Thank you. Scribe Chrome extension installed on your device or the Microsoft Edge extension, you would be able to access GuideMe through that. So, for example, Yasi, in your case, what you would be able to do is, if you are looking to get all of these 150 plus Salesforce users on, as a part of the team or on using the actual features themselves, using GuideMe, you would have to just let them know that they have to actually install Scribe on their browser. And then if you set the viewing permissions for any of your guides to anybody with the link in view, you can send those out to them. They can access the guides and then use the GuideMe directly within the actual application itself in the browser. So it would work for that. There is also another option here too, if you're looking to get again more secure, like Bruce said, if have a higher grade security environment, if you work with sensitive data quite a bit. Our enterprise plans allow you to get everybody on a same team. They also allow you to have different sub teams, so you can choose, only the Salesforce people can access this content, or only the accounting team can access this content. So that's where sort of like the multi-team authentication comes into play. But on the enterprise plans, you can also get what are called viewer licenses. And so, again, if you really want to make sure that everything is secure, locked down, no information is exiting, your Scribe instance, what you could do is you could give them all viewer licenses, and they would be able to then go through, access the Scribe content themselves. And it would be, of course, cheaper than if they had an actual creator license too. So there are options and ways that you could work around that. The most cost effective for sure would be ideally for you to get your own personal paid plan, create all of the Scribes, adjust their viewing permissions, send those out to the folks, have them install the actual extension, and then they'd be able to access the content from there too. But great question. If you have further questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly, and we can put you in touch with somebody if you have any further questions or want to discuss any enterprise plans. And then we have another question who from an anonymous attendee who asked, when clients sign up, do you guys provide individualized trainings? Right now, we don't provide any individual trainings. However, I am the head of our community and social media here at Scribe. I am always happy to jump on a call with anybody. So I always send out emails to automated emails if you've reached a certain activity level too. If you've been making a lot of Scribes, I'll be typically the one to reach out to you and say, hey, I noticed that you've got some, great content there, or you've been making a lot of Scribes. If you have any feedback, please let me know. We also offer some generic Scribe onboarding pro sessions too. So if you're ever thinking about actually upgrading, we do offer some group webinars that you'd be able to attend, ask any specific questions there. They're usually a smaller group there because we offer a few of them throughout the week too. So we do have have a lot of support and training there for you too. But yeah. Other than that, that I believe wraps up all of the questions we had in our Q&A tab. So Bruce, I just want to thank you again so much for today. That what you shared was an incredible workflow. I'm always enamored by seeing how people are actually using Scribe too. So thank you very much for sharing that with everybody. I thought that was incredibly useful too. So I'd love to, of course, give you back the floor and see if there's anything else that you wanted to promote, to plug. Of course, we've got,
Okay.
your services too. So if you want to describe again too, just what you do for the people who are here too, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Nico, again for the opportunity and the platform to share like my a little corner of the world when it comes to helping folks with their tool. Lastly, I would say for myself, I specialize in being an independent recruiter to companies that don't have their own recruiting team or talent acquisition. Also involved with training, especially like tools like these to learn. But really, my focus has been on helping companies grow. So for me, if anyone out there is looking for independent recruiter to help them onboard new team members with toolings or best practices in general, or just really turn their entire tech stack into like a self-service, onboarding model. I'm there for you. So I'd love to connect with you all. But yeah, I will share my information
Awesome.
with you all to connect with me too.
Perfect. That sounds great. Yeah, I'll send a follow-up email, of course, with the recording and everything too, and include all the information from you too. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I really do appreciate that. Thank you again for making the time, spending it here with us today. And if you do want to hire Bruce, he uses an amazing tool called Scribe. So please do, please check that out. Check out his services if you're looking for that. But any other questions, you can always connect with me too directly here. My email is nico@scribehow.com. But of course, I'll send a follow-up email to everybody here with all the information there too. But Bruce just dropped his information in the chat too, so please feel free to go connect with him. But aside from that, I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, a wonderful rest of your week, and it was a pleasure to spend the time with you today. So thank you all very much for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day. Happy scribing ahead. We do have one person who did raise their hand.
Mhm.
It looks like Allison raised their hand. Allison, if you wanted to raise your hand, if you have a question, please let me know. I'm happy to stay on. But if not, mistake. No worries. All right. Hey, just wanted to confirm.
Okay, just say hi. Yeah. All right,
Just
Nico,
saying
thank you
hi.
so
Hello to
much.
you too. Yeah. Thank you all very much. Take care. Happy scribing ahead. Bye bye.